Do I look like Kane right now? So today I'm wearing a snazzy pair of headphones that were provided to us by Mayflower Electronics. These are the version 1s. They gave us $6,000 to wear these for 10 minutes on the show. I tried to get more out of them, Wendell, but that's all I could get out of those guys.
That's probably good because that'll pay our hosting bills for 12 years, and we could get so much food.
I mean, we're gonna have to upgrade our hosting package as well because we were completely down for a long time this week. Like the website went down for over 24 hours. That was not cool at all.
No, it was 23 hours and 18 minutes.
Oh, so was there do we have some kind of thing in our contract that says if the website's down for less than 24 hours, then it doesn't count, or how does that work?
Well, it's funny because the backup server was actually up, but it wasn't, it's like the snapshot that it had was like, I don't know what to do. There's no primary. So it's like, I guess we'll just wait for it to come back because we were minutes away from coming back continuously for hours.
Well, anyway, this contest was supposed to launch like a day ago, but that's really why I'm wearing these headphones because I want to tell everybody to go check out our contest. So we've got a contest right now for one of the coolest DAC amps in the world. It's it's an O2 Objective, I guess is the name, Objective 2 DAC amp combo, and it has the Tech Syndicate logo laser etched on top. And here's what you do to win. You just click on the link that's on the screen right now. You just go ahead and click on that link. It's right here. And it'll take you over to our website and give them some ideas because they're expanding and they're going to be making some new products. The guys in charge of Mayflower Electronics are gamers, and that's a really cool thing because I feel like there's not a lot of cool gaming products that are also, for people who really enjoy good audio. Also, I'm wearing these because I got sick of the earbuds and I just put them on. So, no, nobody gave us any money to wear these. I'm just having a little fun and wearing these. So, you guys can hate all you want in the comments, but I don't care. What else is going on? We got some small things to cover right now. QuakeCon was announced this week, Wendell, and let me change over. There we go. I've got my buttons down now. I'm getting my buttons down. QuakeCon was announced this week. It's going to be in July this year, and it's going to be like at this exact same time as Hope, which is in New York City. Hope is the Hackers on Planet Earth, and there's a lot of interesting speakers there. So I was thinking about going to Hope, and then QuakeCon comes up. So I want to know from you guys, like, what would you like for us to do? And the other thing, my other option is to go camping in California with some other people. So that's the other option I have right now. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but all those things have been announced. The new LibreOffice is out, and the new LibreOffice is going to be really good for Windows users. There's a lot of just compatibility features and a lot of features that are really let Windows users who are struggling with the whole everyone uses Microsoft Office type thing.
Including Mantle support.
Mantle support for LibreOffice?
Yes.
That's unbelievable. Interesting. All right. Also here, this is kind of interesting. Internet Explorer has slipped to 9% according to the W3Schools.com. So look at these numbers, man. Internet Explorer is way down. Firefox, Chrome, Safari's still way down at the bottom of the barrel, but they're just killing it.
Well, it's because Internet Explorer is a tool of the devil and needs to be killed with fire.
What about the new versions? I've heard a lot of people say that the new versions are getting a lot better, man.
The new versions are merely the messenger of Satan and not actually Satan himself.
But the problem is you have to be backwards compatible with all the old versions when you're making websites all the time, right? So while you're making websites for your clients, you got to make sure that grandma can get online with her computer from 1999 that still runs IE5. Are you still building stuff that's compatible with IE5?
Yeah, a lot of the government work requires IE7 or IE8 compatibility, so it's very much bamboo shoots under your fingernails. But IE9 and 10, it's almost like the rules in the engine is like, oh, I see that you've used a capital Q in your HTML. Let me switch out of IE10 mode and into IE8 mode where everything's all broken. And it's like, no, why would you do that?
That's because it wants to force you to do things a strange way. If anybody's wondering why my voice sounds a little strange, it's because I'm getting over a pretty good cold.
He's patient zero. Kill him.
Yeah, I'm spreading this all over the place. I've decided to go get a haircut tomorrow. I'm going to cough all over them. And then I'm going to go to a diner and never mind. Let's talk about Google selling Motorola. So Google recently purchased Motorola. Wasn't that like a year ago? It wasn't even that long ago that they purchased Motorola for several billion more than they just sold it to Lenovo. But
12.9 billion, I think.
So 12.9 billion was the price on that. Now, we want to break this down and try to go a little bit deeper because that's what we do. We take a look at the articles that are online, we try to take it a step deeper and talk about what nobody else is talking about and maybe catch some of the nuances that fall through the cracks regularly. Now, first off, everyone else is indeed pointing this out, but they are maintaining a large portfolio of patents from Motorola, but they weren't able to enforce a lot of the patents that they got from Motorola in the first place. And I think that was part of the strategery when they picked up Motorola was that, hey, we're going to get all these patents and we're going to be able to enforce them. And Google didn't even think about enforcing these things, in my opinion, for a long time because a lot of them seem so standard and so necessary. They didn't really even think about even having a large patent portfolio when it comes to some of the basic things like pinch to zoom and stuff until Apple started suing everyone. And they're like, whoa, oh crap, I didn't even think about patenting that. That just seemed basic and obvious. So they acquired Motorola to kind of catch up on some of that. But now they've sold Motorola.
Well, and Motorola is like, I think Motorola is from the 1920s is when it was originally founded. So their patent portfolio is wide and vast. And they have patents. I mean, they have legitimate patents going back, to the 1980s and the 1990s that are still enforced today for mobile telecommunications. So, I mean, this is a really smart move for Google to buy this patent portfolio and add it to their arsenal.
Let's talk about the Cold War that was brewing between Google and Samsung, because that might have influenced the sale. That might have been probably a pretty big factor in this right now because, Samsung is, well, as you said earlier before we started recording, they're kind of out of control, right? So I mean, do you think that maybe that was part of the reason why they sold Motorola?
Yeah, clearly, like, you guys probably don't realize just exactly how amoral Samsung really is. And Samsung, like with the Galaxy S3 and the S4, those are some incredibly popular handsets, and so they basically are controlling the market. And Android's market share, when you combine all the devices, is far and away ahead of Apple. And what Samsung's doing with like their TouchWiz software and things like that is sort of polluting the core Android experience. Now with Android 1 and to a certain extent Android 2, it was okay and sort of meant for the handset manufacturers to sort of go their own way. But with Android 4, it's supposed to be a cohesive, united experience. I mean, if you look at a lot of the people that are fans of the Google devices and the Nexus devices, they want that core Google experience. But on Samsung, you don't get it. And you also have Samsung working on other operating systems that compete with Android, like Tizen. And that's not just for phones, but they also want to run that on their appliances, their televisions, things like that. And Samsung makes a ton of stuff. So Google sort of makes them nervous when they're actually one of the major players in the Android industry, and Google can't control the user experience.
Exactly. I mean, Samsung they've been trying to clone Google apps for a long time. Every time Google makes a cool app and Samsung tries to make their own version that's usually doesn't work out. They even experimented behind the scenes with creating their own app store. They never actually released that to the public, but they've been doing a lot of things like that. And then the other big deal here is that when Google acquired Motorola, it really put them in a position where they could have been more like a company like Apple, where they could have built their own devices and controlled things. And then if they wanted to, they could have locked out other vendors, or when they got to the table to sit down and talk about different things, as far as their operating system goes. Since they had that much control, that much power, they could have really dictated the terms in a way that was not beneficial to anyone other than Google. So all that brewed together, and I mean, Samsung could have started taking Google to court, I mean, that was a possibility. There was just a lot of things on the table, and there was a lot of unease, and also the fact that so many devices out there that run Android are Samsung. So this seems to be maybe a decent move. And at CES, there was some closed door meetings and that sort of thing where Google and Samsung met, and it seems like some of the edge on this conflict has fallen off after those meetings. But
yeah. I would also say that if you look at it, a lot of these articles are looking at it and they're like, 12.5 billion that they bought it for, and they're only selling it for 2.9. But the Motorola that they bought for $12.5 billion also had their home division and a whole bunch of other stuff, and they actually had already sold the home division at the end of 2012 for like another 2.4 billion, something like that. That was the Aris, their set-top box division, and there are other divisions of Motorola that have been monetized, but the division of Motorola that was sold to Lenovo is really around handset manufacturing. And so this should ease tension with Google and other handset manufacturers other than, not just Samsung, but, LG and other, Google doesn't really want to directly compete with LG and handset manufacturers, but at the same time they want to physically demonstrate what a good Google experience is. And from this merger in this really short time, we get the Moto X and the Moto G and a whole bunch of other handsets out of Google, and so now Google's like, well, we can do this with different carriers other than Motorola, even though we've got these really awesome Motorola phones like there's the Razr Max HD or whatever, and some of the other really awesome Google Android phones that are from Motorola. So they're actually getting good devices on other carriers now, instead of contrast this to Android 2 point something, where every handset manufacturer was making like the cheapest, crappiest Android 2.x phone on earth, and those are still out there, unfortunately. So it's a different situation.
On that same note, they're also keeping their advanced technology group, including Project Ara, and there's some really interesting things going on with those projects. In fact, there was even some discussion of them working on maybe a modular phone where you want certain features, you can like get those certain features and make a little modular phone together.
That's like phone blocks that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago.
They had some stuff like that going on way behind the scenes, but they're keeping that division of Motorola and a lot of the patents. So I'm not sure if they really are coming out in the red here, and a lot of people are saying it is a nuclear stand down and that sort of thing. But where's that article I wanted to talk about? This is also interesting. Google and Samsung have signed a global patent cross-license deal, and they will have access to each other's patents for the next 10 years. Now, this really is going to ease tensions. It's going to do, I think, a number of things, and they haven't disclosed, how much of their portfolio is going to be open and shared between the two companies. But I think this is going to sort of set a precedent for other companies out there, namely Apple. Whenever they're trying to go to court or something like that, everyone's going to look and be like, well, Google and Samsung, they figured it out. Of course, Samsung is using the Android operating system, but at the same time, there's still two different companies with two different agendas, and they're opening up their patent portfolios to one another. And then that's really good for innovation, and people are going to look at companies like Apple that are always just out for blood and always trying to take everybody to court for very silly things like pinch to zoom, and they're stifling innovation because of that. They're going to look at them and be like, guys, can't you figure it out? If these two major companies can figure it out, can't you figure it out as well, so we can move forward with innovation?
Yeah, that was one of the really interesting things to come out of the patent suits, because the Motorola patent arsenal really is like a nuclear doomsday patent arsenal. I mean, there's really no other way to describe it. It is absolutely essential patents to move in the market. And it's a really interesting contrast. I'm not a patent lawyer. I don't understand it exactly, because on the one hand, you have, like the Samsung Apple trial where, some of the patents in there are as trivial as, pinch to zoom. And you have $1 billion ruling for settlements there. But Google actually did file several lawsuits and won several of them. But the judge said that those patents were standards essential and they were only entitled to modest royalties. So these, like, one of them was, I think, Wi-Fi in a phone. Motorola was the first company to put Wi-Fi in a phone, and they were years ahead of everybody else, I think, something like that. And, it's so ubiquitous now that Google was trying to enforce a thing against Apple to block the sale of the iPhone, or ultimately I think that's what they were hoping for, but it never had a chance to escalate to that level. And the situation was, the judge looked at it and was like, well, no, that's an absolutely essential feature of the phone. You're at best entitled to, $1.7 million or $10 million or whatever. So it's almost like, well, this patent is so valuable and so important to the function of phones in general, you can only get modest royalties from it. Whereas pinch to zoom is worth $1 billion. It's a little bit of a non sequitur. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's actually hilarious. That's as if someone were like, I mean, who in the right mind is going to look at two different phones and choose one that has pinch to zoom but no Wi-Fi over, one that has Wi-Fi but no pinch to zoom? That's kind of what they're saying indirectly with this ruling, or with rulings like that in the past.
Some of it's also down to chipset. It's like Motorola makes a chipset, and the chipset enables it to use a certain Wi-Fi or a certain spectrum, like say a 4G spectrum or whatever. And through software, they can do some other function. But Motorola also had a physical chip to do some other function, and so it's like Motorola has a patent on doing that. But does Motorola have a patent on doing that with software versus hardware? And so again, in the case I'm thinking of, the judge was like, well, this is, either way, this is a standards essential patent, so you're only entitled to modest royalties because this is an absolutely essential component of the device. And it's like, that seems counterintuitive.
Time to take a word from our sponsors, Squarespace. Now, their sponsorship has really helped us crank out a lot of videos, so thanks very much, Squarespace. If you guys do not need a website, you can skip ahead about a minute and nobody gets hurt. But if you do need a website, check this out. With Squarespace, you can easily put together a site and you can do it really quickly. And that's kind of the key. It's content forward, meaning there's not a lot of bubbly, flashy icons like you see on a lot of the canned template websites. And this one's not exactly just a canned template website. You can go on, pick a template, and then you can even log in with Get Access and change the HTML and CSS. So you can do a lot with this. If you're working for a client, this can especially be helpful because you can get everything set up and then put together their website quickly just based upon the content that they give you. You won't have to worry about messing around a lot with code. You can just get it done and then move on to the next project. And you can also save them time and money. So that's pretty cool. But let me show you what else they've added and something that I've signed up for. There's now Squarespace for musicians. So you can go on, set up your musician account, and you can integrate it with Bandcamp if you like. Buy or share. When you click buy, brings you right up to Bandcamp. If you're not using Bandcamp or you want to be able to more directly sell, there's now Squarespace Commerce. I work with any template whether you're a musician or not. So check that out. It works with Stripe. So anybody who's familiar with Stripe will know that it's good stuff. Last but not least, this can also be handy for the bands or anyone that's touring or just anybody that has events. There's now an events calendar. I like this theme quite a bit. Different themes for it. I have signed up for one of their packages for musicians, so you'll see the new Zweihander album all set up very soon with a new website, and I'll let you know how that's going. So again, thanks to Squarespace, and now back to our regularly scheduled tech.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's talk about some other cell phone carriers, or not carriers. Let's talk about some other cell phone manufacturers like BlackBerry. Today is BlackBerry 10's first anniversary. And it's now, the BlackBerry's market share is now 0%.
So who were the two people that bought a BlackBerry 10?
Anybody out there got a BlackBerry 10? Oh, wow. And, another stab at BlackBerry. Remember, I don't think we reported, but a lot of websites were reporting that the Pentagon ordered 80,000 BlackBerry phones. Does the Pentagon even have 80,000 employees?
Nope.
I guess they need like 7 for every CIA agent or something.
Those burner phones get expensive.
Yeah, just like break it. You guys know you could just, change some chips out and then, yeah. Anyway, so the Pentagon says, nope, we did not order 80,000 BlackBerry phones. So
and their stock actually became worth a negative amount of money.
Doesn't that mean they're out of business?
That means they're paying you to take their stock.
Let's get a bunch then. We'll get rich. I'll go order 2 million shares right now. It's worth about $80, right?
Yeah. I think in a very early episode, I tried to find it before this episode, but I'm pretty sure that in an early episode that we were joking about it, and we were like, yeah, BlackBerry's done. There's really only 2 companies left, and that's Google and Apple, and everybody else is done. And we've pretty much been right.
We actually got a lot of hate mail from that nonsense. Like not hate mail, but we got a lot of people citing statistics, people saying that BlackBerry 10 was going to take over the world, and we vehemently said no. that wasn't very vehement, was it?
No, it's just like I just don't see this happening. Sorry, not going to happen.
Yeah. Anyway, let's talk about what Verizon's doing. They're always doing something stupid, and this episode they're also doing something stupid. So
they're still messing with the Nexus 5. It's because it's not out yet on Verizon because they're messing with it because they're stupid.
They're like, hey, we can break this maybe. So the Verizon CEO came out and said that eventually Unlimited has to go away. He wants Unlimited to go away. And he said this is kind of funny. He said that other companies, when they're getting near bankruptcy, are going to start to cut some things and start to do some things, and they're going to start to freak out, and then Unlimited's eventually going to go away. So he's insinuating here that anyone that offers unlimited data is going to be brought to the verge of bankruptcy and then change their mind about it and, of course, put data caps and all that sort of thing on usage fees and all this. I mean, from a practical standpoint, do you think it's possible for a company to offer unlimited and stay in business?
Yes, it is absolutely within the realm of possibility, and it's not completely insane.
I mean, well, what's his problem? I mean, that's Verizon. What is your problem? Like, Every week we try to like wake up in the morning, put our pants on, have our coffee, and move the world forward. And I
Well,
feel like every time I read an article about Verizon, it's like these guys get up in the morning, have their coffee upside down, and put on their pants on their arms, and then try to move the world backwards. That's what I feel like.
what they're worried about is basically Nyquist's theorem. And the Nyquist theorem is basically that once you get above a saturation, okay, so wireless is not a point-to-point communication; it's a radio communication, and a lot of cell towers have special antennas that if you were to stand on top of the cell tower and you were to look out like as if you were the antenna, your field of vision would only be about 5 degrees wide or 3 degrees wide or even 1 degree wide. And so these cell towers have a ton of antennas all the way around them, and that's sort of like a pie slice, and whoever's in that pie slice is served by the one antenna. Well, with cellular phones, because it's a broadcast, the more people that are using their cell phone in that slice, the worse the service for everybody else. And so there are things that they do to deal with that, like have different people operate on different frequencies, time division, multiplexing, frequency division, multiplexing. There's all kinds of different general ways of dealing with that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to Nyquist's theorem, which is on a shared medium, once you've got a traffic utilization above a very low number, it's like 15, 20, 25%, depending on the particular algorithm that you use for congestion contention, the majority of the bandwidth available goes to dealing with the congestion, so the two transmitters are not talking over top of one another. This is a fundamental problem of physics, and ultimately it'll never be overcome.
I mean, the one thing that they could be doing right now is probably going and trying to get some initiative started to get 5G rolled out. I mean, they're already doing that in Korea right now. In South Korea, they've already got a 5G initiative. It's going to take probably until 2020. But if we started that right now, maybe by 2020, 2022, somewhere in that range, we could have 5G. And 5G, I mean, the bandwidth is so ridiculous that we could probably, give everybody 100 megabits unlimited on their phone. And, since it's capable of so much, there'd be a lot more to go around. I mean, do you think that would be a plausible solution?
Yeah, the way that you deal with it is to make a ton more bandwidth available, and you also have a ton more towers and have technologies that allow you to do more, more frequencies, more frequency subdivision or more time division, so that you can pack people tighter and tighter and tighter into specific channels that they're using to overcome those problems. And in the lab, they've demoed technologies that basically use like prime numbers and fractals and crazy stuff like that to basically pack everybody else, to sort of pack everybody in and overcome some of the problems that you have with a pure Nyquist system. But at the end of the day, we're talking about if you had 10 gigabit of wireless availability and a high population density, everybody might still only be able to get 10 or 15 or 20 megabit. It's just not as good as a wireless connection.
Mark my words, at the turn of the century, or maybe a little bit before that, electricity was really a commodity. And I think there's going to come a day when bandwidth will be seen right now it's sort of seen as, electricity was back then. But there's going to come a day when it's going to be seen as electricity, and water and that sort of thing is seen now. Water's probably an even better example, like running water, because it's just bandwidth. And it's going to be almost like a human right. I mean, do you think that that's somewhere that we're going to go in the next 20, 30 years?
Yeah, I definitely think that something like that will happen. And I think that the public utilities infrastructure is already there, that we shouldn't be sold short on a purely wireless infrastructure. We have to run electricity to people's houses. There's absolutely no reason that fiber optic cables can't come along for the ride. I mean, wireless is good, and we can offer a ton of wireless bandwidth, but wireless only is just, this is America. We ought to be able to afford that. If you can afford to run electrical wires in a rural area, you can afford to install fiber optic. You really need a wired connection.
Kansas has some issues with all this bandwidth stuff we're talking about. The Kansas legislature wants to stop any further cities from getting Google Fiber.
What?
Did you see this article? These guys in Kansas in the legislature want to stop the spread of Google Fiber. And they want to do this because they feel like it's sort of unfair competition for the current status quo companies that are already established there. because I guess those companies probably went and gave the legislature in Kansas a lot of money to say this and a lot of money to think this way. And they may even have taken them out to dinner and said, listen, Google Fiber is very bad for the state because we make a lot of money and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think they're seeing the big picture here. I don't think they're seeing how good that speed internet is for attracting intelligent businesses, technology businesses. I mean, look at Kansas City now. All of a sudden, it's like a hub and a mecca for all things technology. And that seemed to be, I mean, that's not exactly a strange thing, but I didn't expect Kansas City to be, a hub for technology startups. But now it is, thanks to gigabit internet.
So what you're telling me is like the year is 1930, and we're looking around, and it's like, well, gee, Mayor, I don't know if we should install this public telephone system because, the mail carrier and the Pony Express is really going to put them out of business. They're going to have a really hard time. I mean, this guy running the Pony Express, he works really hard. He gets up every morning at like 4 o'clock in the morning, and he goes and gets everybody's mail so that everybody can send a letter to everybody else. And if they could just pick up the phone and call somebody, I don't know if that's really good. I mean, that guy's going to be out of a job.
What Kansas really needs to do, I mean, if they really, really cannot stand Google Fiber, they probably should try to figure out some way to incentivize rolling out high-speed internet all over the place, no matter what company it was. So imagine they had some kind of a deal where they would help lay the infrastructure. And then any company could take advantage of that infrastructure. Maybe that would work. Maybe Kansas, maybe you guys could empower some small businesses. Is that something you guys do down there? I don't even know how it works down in Kansas. Do you guys like small businesses, or are you just pretty much big box stores and AT&T, Verizon, woo? I mean, I don't know how it is. So I hope you're not like that. But think about it. Set aside like a huge tax rebate, or set aside a chunk of money to help small ISPs in local areas. I mean, look at freaking Canada. Like we talked about last week on the show. You guys can go back and watch that episode. But we talked about a very small. I mean, we're talking like was it under 1,000 people, and they're getting gigabit internet thanks to a very small local company. So if you guys make this stuff happen, number one, you're going to get an influx of good job opportunities. Number two, you're going to get a lot of people moving there that are in the technology sector, and that's going to be good for the economy in all directions. So this seems like it's going to be, number one, really bad for your economy, and number two, bad for growth. It just doesn't make any sense to me unless you're just trying to line your own pockets. So, Kansas, what the hell?
Yeah, I really don't understand. I would really like to see a public debate where these politicians are honestly and trying to defend their position, because this, I mean, it just seems so ignorant that I can't help but think it's got to be some form of corruption.
Yeah, that's when something seems this crazy. It's probably more likely that it's corruption and less likely that they're actually crazy. All right, moving on here. We already talked about the Verizon CEO. Interesting new Android app. I'm just going to mention this in passing here, but this Android app will allow you to see when someone or something accesses your location data, and it's pretty cool. It's being worked on right now by a team. I think they've got a working copy of it right here. It's kind of interesting. Right now, you are able to see updates of when someone accesses your location data, but it can be obscure and hard to find. So what they're doing is they're basically just taking it and making a dictionary entry so you'd be able to just see it in your drop-down, like, hey, someone accessed my location data. So that could be really handy to figure out when people are tracking you. Also, I want to quickly mention this. Remember those idiots who were trying to stop podcasting, that patent troll? There's a patent troll, and they tried to put a patent on just podcasting in general. It was a very generic patent, and they've been chasing down people that have podcasts and people that enable podcasting and suing them. Well, the EFF decided to start action against them. So this company has subpoenaed the EFF for every single name of every person that signed the petitions with the EFF.
Well, that won't be used to harass the people that gave money to the EFF at all.
No, that's totally going to be a good thing. Companies like this are just.
We need Judge Otis Wright, who is working on the Prenda cases, to look at this. He would make short work of these people.
Yeah, that guy's awesome, man. We haven't talked about Prenda in a while. Maybe we'll get some Prenda going on in like a week or so.
No, they've cratered spectacularly. I mean, the judges caught on to their weapons grade stupid, and they've been shut down.
Weapons grade stupid. That's another T-shirt. So now we've got. Last week we had the T-shirt idea for the I don't look good in tinfoil. And then this week we've got weapons grade stupid. Yeah. All right, let's talk about this Twitter thing that went down. So this guy, Naokomi Hiroshima, is that how you say it?
I'm going to refer to him as @N.
@N, all right, yeah, @N. So he owned the Twitter account N. It was just @N. And he had a lot of people like trying to get that account for a long time. All the time, people trying to change his passwords and that sort of thing. And I'm going to try to summarize this because I don't really want to focus on just this. I want to focus on the responses. But to make a long story short, someone compromised his GoDaddy account and someone compromised his PayPal account. And then they used that to blackmail him to take over his N account. And people have offered him $50,000 for this, but he didn't take it. And he had a lot of valuable websites that were being, I guess, hosted or registered by GoDaddy. So anyway, the first response, it was kind of interesting because the hacker that did this to him actually wrote him an email and said, hey man, if you just, give me that Twitter account, I'll give you back your GoDaddy and all your other stuff. So the guy just did it. He was like, here's the Twitter account. And the guy returned all the stuff to him, the hacker did. And he's like, hey man, do you want to know how I did it? And so he's like, yeah. The hacker wrote him back and said, okay, well, I social engineered a guy at PayPal to get your credit card numbers or whatever. And then I called up GoDaddy and used that as verification and then changed your password at your GoDaddy account. So PayPal is still denying any responsibility for this. They're still denying anything. And at first, GoDaddy was like, we didn't have anything to do with this either, but in GoDaddy's defense, and I hope I never have to say that again because they're one of my least favorite companies on the planet, GoDaddy actually did acknowledge that they were a victim to social hacking and that they did turn over some information on this guy's stuff. Oops. So, yeah. I mean, this is all like soap opera type stuff right now. I mean, it's just kind of fun to talk about, but it's also what we can do with this is use it as a lesson. What you can do right now is call PayPal and tell them to never turn over any passwords, any credit card information, any personal or private information over the phone. Call them up and tell them that, and they'll put a note on your account. And then hopefully, if they ever do turn over any information over the phone, that may be grounds for you to take some kind of action because there should have been a note on your account. And every time you guys make phone calls to these sort of companies and that sort of thing, always take your own notes. It's just a very simple, basic thing. Open up like Notepad or something and just say, today I called PayPal, I talked to Shirley or Dan or whatever his name is, and just make a couple notes and save it. That will be very, very helpful to you if anything bad like this ever happens. God forbid. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else we should say about this?
Not really, but I can't find it anymore. But I would love to find it again. There was a service in California that would deal with like GoDaddy and your wireless carrier and companies like that. It was almost like a concierge service. That was the most amazing idea for a service ever because it's like when you were dealing with BS like this, they would just call and deal with it and then email you a recording and be like, yeah, we took care of it. Here's the recording. And it's like, oh, this is so amazing. Thank you. And then I could just file it away. It's great.
You know what? I wonder if we could get like a white social hacking group. And I don't mean like white as like a race of people. I mean white as in like the good guys. And like, let's say like you have a bunch of little stuff, little minutia that needs to get taken care of. Call us and we'll just call and pretend to be you and take care of everything. I wonder if there's like a service like that out there.
Well, that's what this was. This was like
it
a
was
concierge.
Kind of like that?
Yeah, it was like a concierge service. It's like I saw long story short, but I know a guy who spends a lot of money on like the Amex concierge service thing, and it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen. Like he'll just call them and be like, yes, make this happen, and it's like, okay, and it's just some crazy thing, but it usually involves spending a lot of money. But this is a service for like $20 or $25 a month. They would deal with like 5 or 6 things like that. But the most amazing thing was they would email you, like whenever they had to deal with the phone thing and the prompts and whatever, they would email you a recording of it. And it's like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. I wish I could afford to do this. This is awesome. Yeah,
so that's good. And this hacking thing is bad. That's what's that old good or bad news making fun of video? I'm referencing that. Someone knows it and they'll post it in the comments, the good or bad. All right, the Pirate Bay, it's back on in the Netherlands. Now this is kind of interesting because the companies that were fighting to bring the Pirate Bay back were ISPs in the Netherlands. Ziggo and was it XS for All? Or XS for All, I guess that's a play on words, I guess.
Yeah, the story here is really just that they went before the judge and they were like, Judge, this is not really effective, and these people every 10 minutes saying, change this, block that, do this, do that. It's disrupting stuff for our customers. We accidentally blocked some legitimate stuff. This doesn't work. Please don't, make us do this anymore. And the judge looked at it and was like, okay, this is reasonable. And it's like, wow, that's awesome.
You know what's really interesting in this is, and not only did they prove all that, but they also proved that it was making things worse in the sense that there were now more torrent and more magnet links, because not having access to the Pirate Bay, people still want to get stuff. And so they were creating new torrents and new magnet links. And it was just flooding the market with even more torrents. And that's, of course, those did not just stay in the Netherlands. I mean, the internet's a global thing. So it was bad on all areas. And then they also used it as a way to make a statement. And I'll go down here and read this statement at the end. Because I really thought it was pretty cool. It said, unimpeded internet freedom provides an unprecedented breeding ground for new possibilities and opportunities for the entertainment industry. Initiatives such as iTunes, Spotify, Netflix clearly show that the internet offers rights holders new opportunities rather than threats. And that is really something that has not sunk in across the board with a lot of major content creation companies and ISPs and that sort of thing, and even Congress. They see a lot of this as a threat where it's really an opportunity. And you're going to have bad with everything. I mean, just because someone can die in a car accident, that doesn't mean we shouldn't make cars anymore. Just because, you get the idea, just because, I don't know, cookies are going to make somebody have a heart attack, does that mean we shouldn't have cookies anymore?
Well, if you or our audience haven't put it together yet, the argument is really no more complicated than this. If you are with the copyright cartels that are after this draconian setup that they're demanding in order to be able to monitor and control copyright, this is basically tantamount to the complete elimination of online privacy, in that nothing online could possibly be private. And the reason I say that is because before the internet, when it was just you and me, sharing music or, home VHS tapes or just, passages from a book or whatever at some point before the internet, it was sharing information between individuals. In order to enforce the kind of copyright controls these companies want, it is tantamount to eliminating all privacy so that all communications are monitored. That is a very dangerous thing.
Well, that's what they want. All right, let's move on and lighten up the mood and talk about some hardware. AMD has a lot of things going on right now, and we're going to have some videos of AMD versus Intel. I know how much you guys love those. God, you guys love those videos. I can't wait for the comments. Anyway, AMD, they're bringing out their first ARM-based server.
Can we have one?
I'm going to let you talk about this for a little bit.
I want one. AMD, send us one. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. Say no more.
All right, so why do you want one of these?
Okay, well, mainly I just want one to see how fast it can run Apache. Like, how many services, how many people can I get on here? How well does it run Hadoop? I really want to know.
The scalability, I mean, is that something that is going to make this really attractive? Is it going to be extremely scalable? I actually didn't read all of this article. I figured this is more your area of expertise here.
I'm hoping that this is going to be like a $300 server and I can just get a giant stack of them, and then all of a sudden my web server can handle tens of thousands of users.
That's exactly what we need right now. That's like precisely what we need. Also, in other AMD news, Mantle is going to be launched very soon via the next drivers coming from AMD. Let's see if we have any better articles here. So not only Mantle, but they're also going to be HSA features, and they're going to be fixing some of the frame pacing issues that have been driving AMD crazy for a while. And this is mainly the issues that they've been having with their APUs, not necessarily their GPUs. But enabling Mantle really changes a lot of different things, and it has not been released to the public as of yet. So everyone still is pretty much using DirectX for the except for a few people who have, like, I guess there are some drivers floating around out there that have Mantle.
Well, the huge takeaway with the new drivers is that for lower end CPUs, it is a dramatic performance improvement even without Mantle.
Yeah, that's yes, a major improvement. And the interesting thing here is it's not that huge of an improvement with a dedicated graphics card, but you're paying a lot of money for a dedicated graphics card. The APUs are very inexpensive, and I didn't see the value really being there at first. With this, if the game supports Mantle, maybe. Now the big question is going to be, what's going to support Mantle? That's going to be the big deal here. Everything is going to have to support DirectX. DirectX is not going away because it's supported all the way across the board. And love it or hate it, we're stuck with it. I wish we could have been moved over to OpenGL or something else a while back. Or what did 3DFX have back in the day? It was Glide, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I actually really liked Glide.
Well, OpenGL was not without its issues.
Yeah, but I mean, it had less overhead. Yeah, it had a lot of issues. It had less overhead than DirectX, I feel. But
Well, it's because you were programming directly for the hardware, and that was the problem. Is that everybody didn't want to write? It's like, oh, let's test it. It's the problem that Android has right now. It's like, oh, let's test it with this graphics card. Let's test it with this graphics card. Let's test it with this graphics card. Developers don't want to do that.
yeah,
Enter DirectX, and then it can get its tentacles around everything, and then it's bad news.
So if people take advantage of Mantle, it could be a really big thing. If people don't take advantage of Mantle, then it's not going to be a very big thing. I'm on the fence as far as whether or not I'm like, oh, go Mantle yet. I really think it's going to be an awesome idea, but I'm going to have to wait and see how many games that I want to play support it. That's really what matters to me, what I want to play. All right, what's this? Oh, there's a new 3D printer that can print in carbon fiber. Now, this is very interesting because carbon fiber is 20 times stronger than the plastics that are typically used in printing. We're going to be able to make much more rigid, I think, stuff, I guess. So, do you want one of these? I don't know.
I'll believe it when I see it on YouTube.
Yep, that's what it's going to take. That's pretty cool. And carbon fiber, how do you even print in carbon fiber?
It's probably the resin. I mean, it's like carbon. It's like thread and resin and some other stuff. I actually dabbled a little bit with carbon fiber when I was doing I used to be into RC10, like remote controlled car racing and doing the whole racing circuit and that kind of thing. And I actually messed around with carbon fiber and the resins and stuff like that and machining it back then to make custom truck bodies and stuff like that. And it's not I've got an idea for how they could do it. It's just that historically it was always super messy and a real pain to deal with. So I'd love to see how they've sort of put it together and dealt with it.
All right, you ready to get down to business? You ready to get down to business with some science?
Yes.
In Iceland, they've been drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling. They just love to drill holes in Iceland, and they hit a pocket of magma, right? And a lot of times when you hit a pocket of magma, you're like, oh, damn it, magma. Let's go. Everybody pull the drills out. We hit magma. Stop it. Well, they started thinking like, well, you know what? I wonder if there's anything we could do with this. And sure enough, with a little bit of research, they threw some money at R&D, which is always a good thing to do. They decided that they were going to go down there and try to improve geothermal. So now they've got magma-heated geothermal power coming from extremely high pressure, high temperature steam. Now, typically with regular geothermal, the steam is like 60 or 80 degrees Celsius. This is like several hundred degrees Celsius, and the implications from like what this could do for the power world are pretty crazy. And also the fact that this steam hole that they drilled lasted 2 years. So, I mean, the amount of power that it's going to generate is about a little bit more maybe than what you get with like a turbine or something like that. But a bunch of these drilled, I don't know, the logistics of this, you think it could pay off?
Yeah, I mean, in their usage scenario, they're actually just releasing the steam into the atmosphere and using it to power a turbine, I guess. I mean, that's sort of one of the usage cases that I gathered from the article. But this is kind of nice. It's also got sort of a Bond villain-esque, or Dr. Evil if you prefer. It's like, oh, we need to find a volcano for my secret lair that will be off the grid, but I will have megawatts of energy to use at my disposal.
When I was, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I wrote a movie script, and the bad guy created a device called the mantle melter where he drilled down into the core, very similar to this, and then set up a base station that was powered by this. I wonder if they read my movie script. Has that been leaked on the internet or something like that? I wonder if that's what's happened. Because this is exactly, and he was very typical Dr. Evil. It was a slapstick comedy, by the way.
Honestly, it probably is somewhere on Pastebin.
I didn't even release it. Why does this happen to me? Oh yeah, let's talk about growing vegetables in outer space. The Russian space station, they've been growing vegetables up there, and it's kind of cool to see something like this happening, because if we're ever going to do like really long space travel, we're going to have a garden on board. There's a lot of issues with it, and they're still monitoring it to see exactly what's edible and what's not edible or inedible. But I don't know. I just think it's pretty cool that they're growing veggies up there. Maybe my inner hippie's like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. Grow some veggies up in outer space. Whoa.
Have they bred any veggies that can run on radiation and micrometeorites?
Well, I'm pretty sure they're working on it. It also helps to, well, I mean, this is kind of gross, but it helps as far as like human waste disposal. You know, you can turn that into food, and also it helps to renew the oxygen. So, remember those commercials several years ago from some company? I think it was like DuPont or something, where they were just like, carbon dioxide. Some people call it death, but we call it life. And it was just like, wow, your PR team, fire them all. Yeah. All right, what else we got to talk about here as far as science goes? Oh, a major discovery in stem cells. Sales? I almost said stem sales. Like, you guys want to buy some stems?
Well, honestly, that's probably what they're working on it for anyway. It's like Pfizer's like, yes, we must sell liquefied baby. Yes.
Well, that's the thing here is this actually moves away from having to use a baby. So there's no more embryos are going to be destroyed. What they do is they take blood cells and they give them an acid bath and stem cells. That's it. So, I mean, now you could take those stem cells and make anything. So the implications are now it'll be way easier for them to create the cells that are the building blocks of everything, and they can grow new body parts. So it's going to be all kinds of fun things that can come of this. But now there'll be less of the ethics stuff.
Ethical considerations.
That's what I'm looking for, ethical considerations. I was like, ethics something. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. All right, let's get down to business and talk about gaming, shall we?
Gaming. All right.
So the predictions for this year, the PC gaming market should exceed $25 billion.
Only if we've got some compelling games. If we've got more of this remanufactured swill, I predict that that's going to be way, way, way high.
I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really interesting games coming out. I think last year was kind of a problem year. Almost all the games that I wanted to play were delayed until this year. And so last year was the year of waiting. And this year there's going to be a lot of major titles come out. We got some major MMOs coming out. And also MOBAs. There are a lot of MOBAs coming out. Of course, you've got the big ones like Dota and League of Legends, and I guess Heroes of New Earth is no longer that big. But there's a few other MOBAs. MOBAs are like going straight up, and MMOs are going they're trending down, as you can see here from this very detailed graph on the screen right now.
Turns out no one likes playing online games with assholes.
What's up with MOBAs, man? They're going like straight up. I don't really play MOBAs. I'm not really into the MOBA community at all. I don't play League of Legends. I don't play Dota 2. And I've always looked at them and kind of been like, eh. But the audience, like when we go to one of the major events like CES or when we go to PAX, it's like there's PAX over here in the corner, and then this entire wing of PAX is League of Legends, and everyone is dressed up in cosplay. I walked in, I was walking through there with Kane last year, and some guy was on stage proposing to his girlfriend in full League of Legends cosplay. It was weird. I don't understand it, and it doesn't make me feel old. Like usually when I don't understand something like that, I'm like, man, I feel old, but I don't understand it, and I'm not feeling old, so I don't know what that says about the whole thing. Anyway, let's move on here. Duke Nukem on Steam now supports multiplayer. This is not, the new crappy Duke Nukem. This is the original, old school, cheesy Duke Nukem. And the multiplayer was kind of fun. I thought Doom multiplayer was still more fun. I was always more of a Doom guy than a Duke Nukem guy, but it might be fun to jump on and play some multiplayer with a few people. And now it's going to be way easier thanks to Steam. I wish a lot of the older games would update, with Steam or good old games so that they would be easier as far as like network play and that sort of thing goes. I would love to have an online community for Unreal Tournament 1 or something, for instance. That'd be great.
I'm fairly certain that the IPX to IP tunnels that I have keep out the hooligans from the online, multiplayer Doom setup that I have. Because if you can set up the IPX to IP tunnels, there's a certain class of player. I don't really want it to be a one-click install thing from Steam. That's just not going to be good.
You know what? You've got a really valid point there.
It's like, oh, good, you figured out the IPX protocol. We can be friends.
You and I obviously have something in common. And I don't have to hear ethnic slurs from a 12-year-old. Very good, very good. I need like a monocle right now. Very good, yes.
I'm getting a new idea for like a private gaming network. Maybe we can. It's like a closed servers, but the password to the server every day is some sort of challenge that you have to solve.
These are all really good ideas. We should implement some of these. All right, the last thing I want to do is just show you guys some of these Witcher 3 screenshots on PC, because Master Race, that's why. Look at these freaking screenshots. Like, my God. The beauty. I can't even bear to look at it.
I can't even see the polygons.
Yeah, there's... I don't know. I'm probably looking forward to this game almost more than anything else. And these are just a few screenshots. If you guys have not seen the videos from The Witcher, just go online and watch the videos from The Witcher 3. The game looks ridiculous. And it's open world, more open world than the other games as well. So I'm quite looking forward to that. That's going to conclude everything for this episode. Thank you guys for picking up Zweihander. That's doing really well. Are we? Is this a Squarespace episode or no?
Yes, this should be a Squarespace episode.
All right. So back a while ago, you guys saw an ad for Squarespace, and the code is Tech Syndicate 1 until February, right?
Oh,
It's 2 now.
yeah. It's Tech Syndicate 1, but if you're watching this in February, it's Tech Syndicate 2. So, haha.
Yeah. So Tech Syndicate 1 is going to be your promo code to save you guys some money. And, you know, when we first started doing the Squarespace thing, I had a few people complain, hey, you guys are doing ads. But so far, I've been getting only positive things in my inbox about Squarespace. And that's made me feel pretty good about, allowing them to sponsor the show. They've helped us a lot. And nobody's been complaining.
There are actually there are like 3 bands on the site, and they've posted messages or sent me messages that are like, hey, thanks for setting this up. This is perfect for our band. We were able to set this up. It links to our Bandcamp, but it's a whole lot, like they have a lot more control over it than they do at Bandcamp, and they're using it for all their promotions. So it's like, yeah, good job, guys. It's really good.
Anyway, so you guys saw the advertisement. I'm not going to hard sell this thing. I just think it's pretty cool that everyone's having good luck with it. If you're not having good luck with it, by all means, send me an email. I want to know about all these things. I want to know all of the things. And again, we've got the contest going on right now where you could win the very limited DAC amp from Mayflower Electronics with our awesome logo laser etched right on the damn thing. It's pretty awesome. Anyway, that's it, and we will see you next week. Toodles, y'all.